The story begins with Jessica, a comic book writer, waking up from a terrifying nightmare where she is being chased by her father, who is turned into a monstrous spider-like creature. She is trapped in her childhood home, with her father seemingly out of control, but when Jessica's eyes open, she realizes it was just a dream. Jessica is married to Max, a musician, and they recently moved in together with his 2 daughters from a previous relationship. Jessica feels a deep need to care for the girls, particularly because she lost her own mother at a young age. However, Max's daughter's mother is alive but mentally unstable, residing in a mental hospital. Jessica's father, who had gone mad when she was a child, is also in a hospital, and she remembers visiting him there. To escape the haunting memories, Jessica decides to leave their current home and move into her childhood house, hoping the change of environment will improve her mental health. Upon moving in, Jessica feels a sense of peace. While sorting through old belongings, she finds a box of childhood videos and is surprised to see herself in them, as she has no memory of those days. Max brushes it off, claiming that it's normal for children to forget such things. Jessica recalls how she was only 5 when her mother died and her father went insane. She was forced to leave her home and live with her grandmother. Now that she's back in her childhood home, Jessica hopes that the peaceful setting will help Max's daughters adjust and forget the trauma of their real mother's madness. Jessica becomes especially concerned about Alice, the younger of the 2 daughters, who has a scar on her hand from when her biological mother burned her. One day, Alice asks Jessica to play hide-and-seek. Jessica agrees, and Alice hides in the basement, where she discovers a small, mysterious door. Alice goes through it and finds a teddy bear, which she names Chauncey. When Alice tells Jessica about her new friend, Jessica is puzzled but assumes it's a child's imagination. Meanwhile, Alice's older sister, KlLLER, is outside taking pictures. In one of the photos, she spots an old woman looking at her strangely. When she goes outside to check, the woman disappears, leaving KlLLER confused and a bit frightened. Later, Jessica scolds a man from a neighboring house for trying to talk to KlLLER, who is upset by Jessica's overprotectiveness. Despite these tensions, Jessica is relieved to see Alice settling in well, especially since Alice has formed a bond with her new teddy bear. That night, Jessica notices that Alice's teddy has become a source of inspiration for her comic book writing. Alice reads Jessica's comic book to Chauncey, and afterward, she suggests a new plot twist for Jessica's story about the hero and the villain becoming friends. This idea sparks Jessica's creativity, and she feels hopeful about the positive effect Alice's imagination is having on her work. However, things start to take a darker turn. One evening, Jessica finds a ball that she gave to Alice in the basement, but now it has a sad face on it. While exploring the basement, Jessica notices strange drawings and writings on the walls, things she doesn't remember doing as a child. She hears Alice speaking to someone in her room, but when Jessica checks, no one is there. It becomes clear that something strange is happening, and Jessica grows increasingly uneasy about Alice's behavior. Later, Alice's biological mother, who has escaped from the mental hospital, attacks Jessica. The police are called, and the situation grows tense. In an attempt to calm Alice, Jessica talks to her and learns that Alice believes Chauncey has healed her mother and removed the scar on her hand. Jessica tries to reassure her, showing Alice her own scar as a way of explaining that it's normal to have marks. But Alice insists that Chauncey is real and was her imaginary friend, just as Jessica had one in her childhood. Jessica begins to remember her own childhood imaginary friend, a mysterious entity that was much like Chauncey. She also recalls a drawing from her childhood that reads, "Never ever," a phrase that triggers memories of something dark and dangerous. Meanwhile, the psychiatrist who has been treating Alice reveals that there was no Chauncey, and that Alice's imaginary friend was simply a manifestation of her mind. Jessica is reluctant to believe this, but when the psychiatrist mentions that a former patient used to say the same things about an imaginary friend, Jessica realizes that the entity may not just be a figment of Alice's imagination. As Jessica continues to dig deeper into her past, she recalls a disturbing memory of her father, who had gone mad after encountering the entity that had haunted her childhood. Her father had tried to protect her, but he became blind and insane in the process. It was clear that something supernatural had been controlling their minds, using children's imaginations as a conduit. Jessica's suspicions are confirmed when she learns that Alice has been painting a door on the wall of the basement, following Chauncey's instructions. Alice believes that by completing the task, the door to Chauncey's world will open. When Alice disappears into the door, Jessica is left desperate and confused, not knowing how to save her. As the situation escalates, Jessica and Tyler try to find Alice, but she is nowhere to be found. The old lady who had been researching Jessica's past tells her that the entity that controls children's minds is a wandering soul that feeds on their imaginations. Some souls are benign and leave children after a time, while others, like the one that had tormented Jessica, are malevolent and hold on to their victims. The old lady explains that Jessica's father had been trying to protect her from this entity, but the creature's hunger had only grown stronger. In an attempt to save Alice, Jessica decides to complete the ritual that will open the door to the entity's world. She begins painting the things she had painted as a child, completing the tasks that Alice had done. But just as the door begins to open, Jessica realizes that she must sacrifice herself to save her daughter. As she completes the final task, she opens a door to the entity's world, and the creature, Chauncey, appears in his monstrous form. Just as the entity tries to capture Jessica, Tyler and Alice manage to escape through the door. Jessica stays behind, trapping herself in the imaginary world to protect her daughter. But as she tries to leave the world and return to her own, she encounters Chauncey, who attacks her. In the end, Jessica and her family manage to escape the entity's clutches. They set the house on fire to ensure the door to the imaginary world remains closed forever. However, just as they think they are safe, Jessica sees Chauncey again, now in the hands of another child, meaning the entity is still alive and continues to feed on children's imaginations. The story ends with Jessica realizing that she may never truly escape the entity, as it will always live on in the minds of children.